Hello, I'm Chris Lapados Theastasiopoulos. This is Man Free World. Tech support is going to be out on Tuesday to close that portal. Today we're talking about Alec Baldwin. He's the best Second Amendment advocate that ever lived. He's charged again with new evidence, so it looks like he's definitely going to be going to prison on this one. If he's not, the system's clearly rigged. But he really pinned himself in. I can see why they dropped the first one and then want to get him on this one. All right, let's go.
With major breaking news into CNN, actor Alec Baldwin has just been indicted by a New Mexico grand jury on charges connected to that fatal 2021 shooting on the set of the film Rust.
So Alec Baldwin has been charged again in the Rust tragedy. Let's go over what happened.
Go over and give Nate the lawyer like and subscribe. He does good work. Fair use, by the way.
So there may be some confusion here. Let's go back. Initially, Alec Baldwin was charged with involuntary manslaughter. Then the DA dropped the charges without prejudice.
But we do begin tonight with the breaking news late today. Lawyers for Alec Baldwin say the charges against him will be dropped. The involuntary manslaughter charges after that deadly accident on a movie set. Now, it comes just 2 weeks before the trial was set to begin, the case being prosecuted in New Mexico, where, of course, that shooting took place.
Now, I predicted initially that Alec Baldwin is going to be likely found guilty and go to jail, and we'll discuss exactly why. So let me get everyone caught up on the facts of what actually happened in this case. So check this out. So here's the initial police interrogation.
This is the part that's like, oh yeah, you're done, buddy.
Of Alec Baldwin and a reenactment by the victim's family. We're going to play them side by side so you can see both the visual and listen to what Alec says about what happened that day. So let's start at the beginning. Who handed Alec Baldwin the gun that day?
Or should I say, who handed you your weapon in the day?
Hannah.
Handed it. Okay. And physically handed or put it in the holster?
Handed it to me.
Okay.
She would show me the gun.
Okay.
Or she'd say, cold gun. She'd say, test it, or some language to indicate she handed me the gun. Then it was fine. And she'd say, do you want to check? And I always didn't want to insult her. I said, we never had a problem.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I'm good.
Now, what did we just...
He said, no, I don't want to offend her. Okay, let me just quick review of the gun safety rules. If anybody doesn't know, they're very straightforward. They make a lot of sense. There's not a lot of nonsense in there. I want to check if there's anything about checking to see if asking someone if they pass you the gun if it's offensive. So it's like guns are always loaded. So you're supposed to know guns are loaded. So when somebody hands you a gun, yeah, you have to assume it's loaded, sir. Yeah, you are supposed to always check. And he says, and do not point. Is there anything about offended? Nope, nothing about being offended there. Do not point the muzzle at anything you are not willing to destroy. Yeah, no matter what it is, no matter what kind of gun it is, doesn't matter what kind of gun it is. Like, you just don't do that. All right, and let's see. Offense? No, nothing about being offended. Do not put your finger on the trigger until your sights are on the target and you're willing to shoot. Okay. So why you are your finger on the trigger, sir? Alec Baldwin? Let's see. Anything about being offended? Nothing about being offended. Okay. Be sure of your target and your backstop. So, like, what you're shooting at and what's behind what you're shooting at. Anything about being offended? Nope, nothing about being offended there. Okay, Alec, let's see what Nate has to say about it.
Here. Alec Baldwin has just admitted that he was handed a gun by the armorer, he was asked to check the gun for safety, and that he declined to do so.
Oh, so he declined. Okay. So everything at that point is his responsibility, his fault, because he definitely knows these rules, because every gun movie he's ever been on, and go down the rules of gun safety. These are so obvious and self-evident, but we still have to tell people because there's some people out there that don't quite understand. Like,
because
Alec
he
Baldwin
didn't want to offend the armorer. Now, this is
but he didn't want to offend the armorer. Wow. Okay. That's where you're gonna go with, Alec? Okay.
Clear admission that Alec Baldwin was aware of the risk, and he disregarded that risk when he said he wasn't going to check the gun, and someone was killed. Alex is now going to tell us what happened next.
It's Hannah again.
They arm me, and you're assuming, as we've done every time, that it's a cold gun for the rehearsal. And I put the gag in the shot through the camera because I have a coat, and I have a holster, and I pull the coat over, and I kind of cup my hands like I folded my hands. And then I'm going to slowly sneak the revolver, the Colt out, and turn and shoot these other guys, or try to shoot them. I take the coat over the thing, and the camera's there. I believe, my recollection is she was there, turned a bit, like talking to him. So I think she was hitting the right armpit. But this is all I know, and that is that I take the gun out in the rehearsal. He wants it very dramatic and very sort of kind of sneak up on them. I take the gun out, and then I take, like as it clears, as the barrel clears over, I turn and cock the gun over here. I turn and cock the gun goes off. It's supposed to be a cold gun. Nothing. No flash charges, nothing.
Discuss involuntary manslaughter, which occurs when the perpetrator engages in dangerous or illegal activity that...
Okay, just so you know, no matter where you are or who you're talking to, he knows this. If someone hands you a gun and you don't know how to check it, you're supposed to ask the person to show you before you you give it back, before you accept the delivery. You say, show me how the safety works. Show me how. If you don't know how it works, you say, show me how it works. So where safety is, how it's loaded, how do you know if it's loaded or not loaded? And he's gone through all that. He's already done that. So he knows that the guns are always loaded. It's now his responsibility to check. Okay? All right.
Causes the death of another. This crime requires recklessness in some jurisdictions, while other jurisdictions allow involuntary manslaughter charges in cases of criminal negligence. Involuntary manslaughter is known as criminally negligent homicide in some places, though other jurisdictions may use the term criminally negligent homicide to describe a separate, lesser homicide, where the intent of the perpetrator doesn't rise to the level of recklessness. Examples of cases that have led to charges of involuntary manslaughter include causing the death of an unborn child while in the commission of a crime, reckless discharge of a firearm into the air or into a crowd, causing a death, a voluntary physical altercation, like a bar fight, where one person is accidentally killed, a ride-operated affair not strapping a passenger in properly, causing the death of the passenger.
Now, the key component to involuntary manslaughter is recklessness. Recklessness matters. For instance, pointing a gun at someone and pulling the trigger is reckless because if that gun is loaded, someone could be hurt, someone could be killed. So that's essentially what they're saying Alec Baldwin did. He knowingly pointed a gun at someone, that gun happened to be loaded, he pulled the trigger, causing the death of another. Involuntary manslaughter. Now, Alec Baldwin's defense is not that he didn't point the gun, not that the armor handed him the gun, none of that. It's that he didn't pull the trigger. And since he didn't pull the trigger, the gun malfunctioned. And that is not involuntary manslaughter because even though he pointed the gun at someone, the gun malfunctioned, making it so he is not responsible. Check it out.
In the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them. Never. That was the training that I had.
Stop. This guy. We've seen all the movies, man. Stop.
You don't point a gun at me and pull the trigger.
Now, the DA
Right, that's the rule, but you broke it.
in Santa Fe initially dropped the charges because they said, well, we can't determine if he actually fired the weapon or not, if he pulled the trigger. But then a new report came out showing that, hey, not only did the gun work, it didn't malfunction. To fire the weapon, he would have had to pull the trigger. Check it out.
Alec Baldwin could still face charges stemming from the Rust movie set shooting after a new report reveals the actor likely pulled the trigger. Prosecutors have received...
Yeah, that kind of gun, to go off, you have to cock it and you have to pull the trigger. Just look into it if you don't know what I'm talking about. That kind of weapon, that old timey revolver, you have to cock it and you have to pull the trigger. There's no other way.
A second expert analysis of the revolver fired at that fatal shooting of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. The new findings state the trigger had to been pulled for the gun to fire. Baldwin has said he pulled the hammer back, but he didn't pull the trigger, and the gun fired accidentally.
So now, there are a couple of things going on with this case. Number one, did he pull the trigger? Because if he did pull the trigger, that's one aspect to it. But then we have the whole second aspect to it is that Alec Baldwin is going to claim that they gave me an empty gun, a gun that I believe was going to be empty. There weren't supposed to be any live rounds on the set. This should have been a quote-unquote cold gun. There
Doesn't matter.
was no risk from his perspective. When he was handed the gun and told that it was a cold gun, that he relied on the professionals that they pay to make sure these type of accidents don't happen.
That's not how it works, sir. He knows it.
The armorer and the assistant director. Now, to be fair, Alec is correct. He is in a working environment where you do have professionals who are trained and
it still does not matter.
And being paid to make sure this doesn't happen. But the question for the jury is, does that absolve Alex of any wrongdoing?
When the prosecutor said that Baldwin should have checked the gun, that is not the actor's responsibility. The actor puts a great deal of trust in us, the armorers and the prop department, to make sure that while we make
Who's this guy getting paid by? No. It's his responsibility. He knows it.
we make it look as real as humanly possible, we also make it as safe as possible. And he was assured by a crew person, the first AD in this instance, that that gun was, quote, cold, or didn't have any blanks in it, or wasn't dangerous, and he acted accordingly.
Then why even have the procedure then? Why even have the procedure where the armorer asks Alec to check the gun? Why even talk about that? Why even have that as a part of it? Why don't we just remove that, put all the risk on the armorer, and then we'll be done? But that's not how he done it. Why? Why is that? Why?
So he may have liability, but he put his trust in our crew, and that crew person, the armorer and the AD, failed him terribly.
Baldwin's attorney saying Alec, quote, relied on the professionals with whom he worked, who assured
Then you relied on things that were not reliable. Sorry, sir, and now you will pay the price.
him the gun did not have live rounds. We will fight these charges, and we will win.
Just because you're paying people to check the gun, does that mean he doesn't have to check the gun? The DA thinks that it doesn't, and thinks that he should have checked the gun because the law demands that he checks the gun. Check it.
The law demands that he does this. He knows.
Now, what were some of the key pieces of evidence that you used that factored into that decision?
Well, that there was such a lack of safety and safety standards on that set, that there were live rounds on set. They were mixed in with regular dummy rounds. Nobody was checking those, or at least...
Super bad idea. Whoever allowed that to happen, they need to go on trial as well. I don't know why that person's not on trial, but it's not illegal to mix live and blank rounds on a set. It's not.
They weren't checking them consistently, and then they somehow got loaded into a gun.
Somehow. Mixed up on the same table. Somehow. Come on, lady.
Handed off to Alec Baldwin. He didn't check it. He didn't do any of the things that he was supposed to do to make sure that he was safe or that anyone around him was safe. And then he pointed the gun at Halyna Hutchins and he pulled the trigger.
Pretty cut and dry. Here's a DA using the language of the law to explain why she charged Alec Baldwin.
The first part of the involuntary that we'll be charging is that they acted without due caution and circumspection, meaning they weren't just negligent in their duties, but that they were on notice, that they had duties, and that they should have done or not done something that didn't happen on that set, meaning they should have checked the bullets, they should have checked the gun. They shouldn't have even been using a live gun that day. They should have been using a rubber or a plastic gun. All of these things go together and show that there was just this complacency, lack of care on that set, and it's more than negligence, and I would say it rises to recklessness.
Now, I'm going to keep it 100. A lot of times, juries like to keep things simple, and I think this is a simple case. The nail in Alec Baldwin's coffin is going to be the fact that Hannah Gutierrez and Alec Baldwin both have given statements to say that he was handed a gun and asked to check it. Now, if he wasn't asked to check it, then you can make an argument that, hey, we've always done it this way, and, you know, we had these safeguards in place, and he's not supposed to check the gun. But he
They always ask to check. It's like 101 gun handling. When somebody hands you a gun, you gotta check if it's loaded. It's just anybody, like the first moment you get involved with guns, if you have any sense in the people involved with you, which maybe I'm lucky, maybe the people are just completely dumb and they don't understand these things. And they deserve whatever happens if they don't follow these very simple, pretty obvious fucking rules. Holy shit, man.
Admitted when she handed him that gun, he asked them, do you want to check to make sure it's safe? Listen to it again for yourself. Don't believe me.
Or should I say, who handed you your weapon in the day?
Hannah.
Handed it. Okay. And physically handed it or put it in the holster?
Handed it to me.
Okay.
She would show me the gun.
Okay.
Or she'd say, cold gun. She'd say, test it, or some language to indicate. She handed me the gun, said it was fine. And she said, do you want to check?
Okay.
And I always said, when I was
She said, test it.
Yeah. I said, I'm good.
She handed me the gun and asked me, do you want to check it? And I said, nah, I'm good. That to me sounds like involuntary manslaughter. I'm sorry, people. If you're an Alec Baldwin fan, that to me sounds...
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what she said. It's his fault. He didn't do it. So.
It's like involuntary manslaughter because the law doesn't say just because somebody handed you the gun and asked you got to check. You got to check. So don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, go give him a like and subscribe. And, yeah, Mr. Baldwin's probably going to go back.